Welcome back to the deep dive. You gave us a powerful set of source material this week, and it's headlined by the Defense Intelligence Agency's latest threat assessment. It really paints a picture of a global landscape that is, well, it's not just unstable, it's fundamentally reshaping itself.
That's absolutely right. I mean, the core message from the DIA assessment is that the old models of threat analysis, they just don't apply anymore.
So what are we looking at instead?
We are looking at a rapid convergence of advanced technologies. We're talking AI, specialized cyber tools, unmanned systems.
Right.
And all of that is happening alongside this deeply transactional cooperation among major U.S. competitors and adversaries. The danger isn't isolated anymore. It's networked.
And our mission today is to take that big picture assessment and, really zero in on one nation that has utilized this convergence, maybe better than anyone, North Korea. We need to unpack how Pyongyang has moved from, say, relative isolation to a real position of strength, how it's modernized its military, and this is the crucial part, how it manages to fund it all through these sophisticated global criminal networks.
And for you, the listener, the key takeaway had to be this. North Korea is no longer just a regional problem. It is a central global instability factor.
Not just because of the weapons.
No, not just the WMDs. It's because it pioneers financial evasion techniques that exploit the entire interconnected digital economy. We are talking about a regime that has basically operationalized cybercrime as its primary GDP.
Okay, let's unpack this strategic repositioning. We have to start with the hard power. What is the current assessment of North Korea's military strength? Because the language in these reports, it suggests they've made a significant leap.
They certainly have. The assessment is pretty blunt.
How?
It says North Korea is in its strongest strategic position in decades. It has the capability to hold U.S. forces and allies in Northeast Asia at risk, and it's continuously improving its ability to directly threaten the U.S. homeland.
And when we talk about threatening the homeland, we are, of course, focused on their missile program. What's changed with their intercontinental capabilities?
Well, they have, of course, developed an ICBM, an intercontinental ballistic missile, that's capable of ranging the continental United States. But the real game changer, the thing the sources all emphasize, is the breakthrough in solid fuel technology.
Okay, why does solid fuel change the calculus so dramatically? We hear that term a lot, but what does that practically mean on the ground?
It's the difference between a high-stakes, very visible operation and a quick, concealed launch.
Okay.
Think about liquid-fueled rockets. They require a huge amount of infrastructure, time, visible activity.
Yeah.
You have to pump all the propellant in before launch.
Right, which makes them a huge target. The setup time is their Achilles heel.
Exactly. So the final test of their new high-thrust solid-fuel ICBM engine, and this is likely for the Hwasong-20, was described by Kim Jong-un himself as marking a fundamental change.
And why? Because they're just ready to go.
Pretty much instantly. They can be moved easily, hidden in tunnels or forests, and launched very, very quickly. This just dramatically increases the survivability and readiness of the nuclear forces, forcing the U.S. and its allies to constantly shift their threat calculus. It adds this whole layer of ambiguity.
And their nuclear goals aren't just about ICBMs aimed at the U.S. mainland. It sounds like they're diversifying the entire arsenal.
Oh, absolutely. They were looking for flexibility. That 2021 5-year defense plan, it emphasizes developing tactical nuclear weapons.
Smaller nukes for the battlefield.
Right. Smaller nukes for regional conflict. They're working on smaller and lighter nuclear weapons, and even ambitiously mention ultra-large nuclear warheads.
It sounds like a full-spectrum nuclear strategy.
It is. And what's more, they are postured for escalation. Pyongyang has fully restored its nuclear test site. They are explicitly ready to conduct a 7th nuclear test whenever they choose.
And we can't forget the other WMDs.
We can't. They almost certainly have a chemical warfare program, nerve, blister, blood, choking agents. And they have a probable biological warfare program as well. It's an arsenal designed for both regional coercion and, well, global deterrence.
Okay, that covers the hardware, the capabilities. But none of this modernization, especially at this kind of pace, happens in a vacuum. Let's pivot to the political landscape, because this is where it gets really interesting. The reports are so clear that Russia's war in Ukraine essentially accelerated the formation of a new, deeply transactional axis of cooperation among adversaries.
This is maybe the most strategically concerning finding in the whole assessment. North Korea has leveraged the global demand that Russia's war created. It has. It has transitioned from an isolated rogue state into a vital strategic supplier.
What does that support actually look like on the ground?
It's immense. Over the past year, North Korea has shipped millions of artillery rounds, something Russia desperately needs, along with dozens of ballistic missiles.
But there was another detail that really jumped out.
The troop deployment.
Yeah.
The sources confirm North Korea deployed more than 12,000 troops to fight for Russia, specifically along the Kursk salient.
12,000 troops. I mean, that is a substantial direct deployment of human capital to a major European conflict. That goes so far beyond just selling munitions for cash.
It does.
It really sounds like North Korea is buying strategic protection and long-term technical support.
That is the trade-off.
Okay.
The arms shipments provide immediate cash, sure, but the support from Russia, that is the critical enabler for their long-term goals. Russia is expanding its sharing of space, nuclear, and missile-applicable technology, expertise, materials.
What are the near-term consequences of that assistance? What's the prediction?
The assessment is clear. This technology sharing will directly enable significant advancements in North Korea's weapons programs in the next, say, 3 to 5 years. We're talking tangible improvements in reliability, accuracy, survivability.
Can we be more specific about the military systems being transferred? What is Moscow giving them that makes this such a serious concern?
Well, we know North Korea is almost certainly receiving specific military cooperation, including advanced SA-22 surface-to-air missile systems.
So sophisticated air defense.
Very. They are also getting specialized electronic warfare, or EW equipment. This dramatically improves North Korea's ability to defend against airstrikes and to jam adversary communications. And on top of that, Russia has offered significant assistance for their space program.
Which means?
Which means help with space launch vehicles, surveillance satellites, and crucial technical training.
This collaboration effectively circumvents, well, all previous international pressure and sanctions. So where does China fit into this? They're the economic lifeline, but are they part of this military axis?
China remains absolutely critical. They maintain the economic and political dependence that Pyongyang needs for just sheer survival, and China continues to block new UN efforts to sanction them, acting as a diplomatic shield.
But not militarily.
Right. The sources note that military cooperation between Beijing and Pyongyang remains minimal despite their old 1961 Mutual Defense Treaty.
So China provides the floor of economic stability, but Russia provides the ceiling of technical advancement.
Precisely. And there's a nuance here. North Korea's aggressive push to partner with Russia might also be a calculated move to, counterbalance China's overwhelming leverage over them.
Making sure they aren't beholden to just one patron.
Exactly. It's a sophisticated play for strategic autonomy through these transactional alliances.
This paints a picture of a well-resourced, technologically advancing regime that has successfully broken its isolation. And that leads us to the critical question. How is all of this being financed?
It is entirely reliant on illicit revenue. The sources are unequivocal. The key driver here is their cyber force.
And this isn't just some hacking group.
No, not at all. This is a full-spectrum national program. It's operating at a level of sophistication that's approaching the programs of China and Russia. And it's explicitly identified as the primary means for funding the government and its military.
We need to talk about the scale of this. The numbers they've achieved through cryptocurrency theft are just
staggering. Yeah. Reports indicate that in 2024, crypto theft, combined with those weapon sales to Russia, accounted for the majority of the DPRK's foreign currency earnings.
And we saw the biggest example of this just recently.
We did. In February 2025, the group known as Trader stole nearly $1.5 billion in crypto from the Dubai-based exchange Bybit.
1.5 billion.
That is the largest reported crypto heist in history, from a single operation.
And who are these groups funding? Where does that $1 billion go?
It flows directly to the entities responsible for WMD development. UN-designated entities like the Reconnaissance General Bureau, or RGB.
Their main intel and cyber warfare agency.
Right. And the Ministry of Atomic Energy and Industry, which is their nuclear program, and of course the infamous Office 39, which is Kim Jong-un's personal slush fund. These cyber ops are feeding the heart of the military establishment.
So how are they pulling these heists off? What's the tradecraft?
Well, they target global crypto exchanges, UAE, Japan, India, Singapore, and they also focus heavily on defense sectors to steal intellectual property. Their main technique is sophisticated social engineering, spear phishing.
Posing as recruiters, things like that.
Exactly. They pose as job recruiters offering high-paying roles or as investors. They've even impersonated reps from major companies like Crypto.com to lure employees into downloading malware.
What's fascinating and frankly terrifying is how they're adopting cutting-edge tech. The sources specifically mention their use of AI.
They are rapidly weaponizing AI. DPRK actors, including groups like CryptoCore and TraderTrader, acquired accounts to use large language models and generative AI.
Do we know which ones?
The report specifically named OpenAI and the Chinese AI tool DeepSeek.
And what are they using these powerful tools for?
They're using them to massively accelerate their operations. They use AI to debug their code, which makes their malware more effective, harder to detect. They use it to gather intel on new intrusion tools and to do rapid, comprehensive research on complex crypto topics and market vulnerabilities.
So AI is basically optimizing their state-backed criminal enterprise.
That's a perfect way to put it, yeah.
That is truly something else. But okay, cyber heists are only one side of the funding coin. Let's talk about the remote IT worker scam. This is the human infrastructure.
It is. This remote workforce is highly organized, and it's crucial for their consistent revenue stream. Estimates range from 3,000 to maybe 10,000 IT workers deployed overseas, mainly in China and Russia.
And they're expanding at home, too.
They are. Pyongyang is rapidly expanding its domestic capacity and facilities in Sinuiju, Raisin, and in the capital.
And the money they bring in it's significant.
It's huge. These workers often earn an average of $10,000 a month, which is just astronomical for a North Korean. But they're required to remit about half of that income directly back to the state.
Straight into the coffers of those WMD programs we mentioned?
Straight in.
The sophistication they use just to get these remote jobs it's like an entire identity fraud industrial complex. They've completely weaponized fake personas.
They have to get around modern hiring safeguards. They use VPNs to mask their location, of course, but they also deploy synthetic faces.
What does that mean?
Images generated by tools like thispersondoesnotexist.com to avoid using their real photos. And they purchase sophisticated synthetic KYC documents, fake passports, driver's licenses to pass all the verification checks.
That's unnerving. I saw a note that they have a preference for using Ukrainian identities when applying for these fraudulent jobs. Why Ukraine specifically?
That is a calculated and really cold-blooded tactic. They believe that Western companies, especially in tech and finance, are more inclined to hire or sympathize with Ukrainian identities for remote jobs.
As a way to support Ukraine.
Right. They think it gives them a higher likelihood of getting the job. They are leveraging geopolitical goodwill for criminal gain.
And how are they acquiring these verified fake identities at scale?
Well, this is where it gets really industrial. The sources documented that Ukrainian brokers are running large scale. They call them laptop farms.
Laptop farm.
Yeah. And these aren't just, theoretical marketplaces. These are actual operations selling fully verified, packaged identities. So you get the face, the documents, the whole package.
Wow. And what does something like that even cost?
It's surprisingly low, about $120 to $160 a piece. It's literally a supply chain for fraud.
Okay, so once they have the crypto, either from hacking or from the IT workers, the regime needs to turn that back into usable physical cash, fiat currency. How do they launder this massive amount of digital wealth?
They use a documented, incredibly complex 9-step laundering process. It's designed specifically to create maximum distance from the initial theft.
And that involves things like mixers and bridges.
Exactly. It involves decentralized exchanges, cross-chain bridges, and specialized swap services.
Okay, let's pause there for a second. For listeners who might be less familiar with crypto tradecraft, what exactly is a mixer or a cross-chain bridge in this context?
So think of a mixer or a tumbler, like a washing machine for money. Your stolen funds go in, they get mixed up with thousands of other legitimate transactions, and then they're paid out in smaller amounts to new wallets. It makes it nearly impossible to trace the original source.
I see. And a cross-chain bridge.
That's a tool that lets you move currency from one type of blockchain, say Ethereum, to a completely different one, like Solana. When the asset moves, the original transaction trail effectively stops at that bridge. It destroys the audit path.
So they use both to just completely muddy the waters.
Completely. And after running the funds through all that, the final step is cashing out into fiat currency.
And how do they do that?
Through over-the-counter, or OTC, traders. And this relies almost entirely on Chinese financial infrastructure. Specific Chinese nationals are named as key facilitators, people like Wang Yikong, along with DPRK officials who help manage the transfers.
So the Chinese financial system is essential to the whole operation.
It's the linchpin. Because of the scale. DPRK actors rely on at least 15 Chinese banks, including huge ones like the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China. They use Chinese nationals as banking proxies to set up accounts. It's the necessary exit ramp to turn billions in digital assets into fiat currency that can actually be used.
So this deep dive has really connected three critical points for us. North Korea's military capabilities are advancing at a terrifying pace.
Yeah, with breakthroughs like the solid fuel ICBM.
Right, and this is being directly enabled by deep reciprocal cooperation with major adversaries like Russia.
And this entire strategic move is being financed by a highly sophisticated global criminal enterprise built on industrial-scale cyber exploitation and identity fraud.
And what this means in terms of immediate relevance for you, the listener, is that this isn't just targeting military intelligence. It targets the fundamentals of modern commerce tech, financial services, insurance, the defense industrial base.
Exactly. It exploits the very vulnerabilities in modern remote hiring. Any company engaging in remote work is a potential target and could be unwittingly funding the world's most dangerous WMD programs.
So what does this all mean for the future we're walking into?
Given the explicit documentation of DPRK actors using open-source AI tools like OpenAI and DeepSeek to debug their malware, while simultaneously infiltrating global critical infrastructure, we have to ask a really tough question.
Which is?
How quickly will the convergence of advanced AI with state-sponsored financial crime and WMD development fundamentally change the risk assessment for global tech companies and the stability of critical infrastructure? The era of sophisticated state-backed digital crime. It's only just beginning.
A truly unsettling convergence to contemplate. Thank you for guiding us through this challenging but essential assessment.
Always a pleasure.
And thank you for joining us for the deep dive. We'll see you next time.